or my good friend John Wiley Price in Dallas. I was talking to John, and see that trial went what, a month, but John had the resources because they'd been after him for years. Because his activism and his radical nature, John he's very independent, very supportive of his community. So the powers that be in Dallas, being Dallas area, they were after him for years. Not a better one. If I just had the money to pay for the attorney that I had to go to court.
Okay.
If I had the money to pay the $400, $300 per hour court cost per day, and you say you calculate you're spending 4 to 6, 8 hours in a courtroom per day, 5 days a week, 4 days a week, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not knowing how long that's gonna go. I wasn't fixing to mortgage houses and. No, not employee, elected official.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not an employee of the city. But I come under the charter, the protection of until whatever. Of course, here comes the wave of you should resign and a step. No, I wasn't doing that because I still had an agenda, and I knew they couldn't do that, and I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, and I could sleep with myself, and I knew the facts would bear out. I knew my community knew that, so I wasn't doing that. And so once they realized I wasn't leaving and everything. If you notice, you'll look at history, a number of ministers at the end of that particular 2 years, and then you look at the facts that of the things that I had gotten done in those 2 years versus, and not in any way in contradiction to some of the things that had gotten done in previous times in 4 years. And the money I had put in projects, I had gotten a tremendous amount done. The Carver had gotten done. The parks things had gotten done. I can't go down the whole list of all the capital improvements. I have a list of those things. The things he had done, the park in Dale Crest, the park in Lakeside, like I said, the Carver, that was the big thing. Reverend Black and the Carver, our institutions, some of the things in all of the streets and projects, the sidewalk projects that we got done, that was a major emphasis for me for the children who were walking to school in the rain, because I used to ride the district after it would rain and identify especially those communities where kids were walking to school. And I identified those streets as streets to use my sidewalk and street money on to do that for children who were walking to school and stuff. Everybody wasn't catching the bus to school. And if it rained, you shouldn't have walking in the street in water. So those were my kind of emphasis, and we got those done. I think it was Reverend Smith at the time, a number of ministers they interviewed, and they said, we've never seen these many trucks and streets and things that are getting done over in Willow Woods. Belgium Lane, when we changed the name to AT&T Parkway, and all of those Kono, going into Willow Woods and the park down there, Pletz Park, the stuff we got done for there, and then the flooding thing, representing them when we found out that after the Great Flood, how the water system, SAWS had been dumping their construction debris behind, and that's how Willow Wood got flooded during the flood of 98, 99. Helping to lead that suit, appointing Mr. Thomas to San Antonio River Authority and those kind of things, and moving progressively to deal with the county to clean up and get Willow Woods back on track. Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't have done it. It was just the desperation of them. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it if I thought that was going to lead to that. Oh, of course, you know.
Do you remember any body language or anything that made you suspicious of him at the time, or?
Probably just the point of, we want to do something for you. What can we do for you?
He repeated it?
That thing twice, yeah. I did say, look, because, you know, I'm very direct. Look, like I said, you can't do anything for me. If it's something in the community that whatever, let me, you know, if y'all could donate to this or donate during the Thanksgiving period when we have turkey collection for people who are doing the giveaway of turkeys like I would do every year. One year I think I collected 40-some turkeys. The gentleman over at Texas Towing, who had the towing contract with the city, he bought turkeys. You know, I got a call. John, can you help us? We're gonna do the turkey thing. Can you help me raise? Let me get on the phone. So who do you call? You call these people. Say we'd like to do something for the community. When it's time, let us know, because they are going to doing things in the district. So that's who you call. I have a church that's going to do a turkey dinner for the homeless or whatever. I need. How many you need? I need 10 turkeys. Deliver to who? They don't come to me. And that kind of thing. That goes on. Those are kind of things that happen. Oh, of course. Okay. I'm going to have a fundraiser on the 20th. Appreciate your support. You can do that all day long.
Okay.
Yeah. But you cannot tie someone donating to you to a specific act. You cannot say, I will change that street if you donate to my campaign. No. And usually people who are in that culture, they know, or they will ask you, when's your next fundraiser? We'd like to support it. And you say, well, I think I'm having one on the 20th. Y'all invited, look to see you. The exchange.
Okay.
The exchange.
That was enough?
That's enough. And they know, because they look at your situation, and they know whether you be able to defend this. They know that. That's why when I came out of the courtroom and I said when I apologized to the community, and I'm very sorry that I'm not able to put this on go to court and defend myself in the public arena, because it will cause me to definitely almost bankrupt my family. And I'm not doing that.
So the time span between the receiving of the funds and you hearing about a possible investigation is what? Weeks, months?
Months.
Months?
I'm going to say at least 2 to 4 months.
And you hear from this guy or don't hear from this guy?
I don't hear, I hear nothing else.
He disappears.
He disappears because in council, it's ever, you're not making, you know, you're meeting people all the time. The developers, your community people, your community nonprofits, your community boards, your community neighborhoods, and then here come people who want to do things in your community, or maybe not in your community, but they still need your vote. Let's say they want to do the park on whatever. Well, that person still needs 5 votes. So that developer, he will schedule meetings with all the council persons to say, we would like to do this. Can you support Councilman so-and-so? And now you're dealing with supporting your fellow council person. And there, I need your vote on this. I need your vote on that. I'm going to ask them to come talk to you and explain what the project is. And would you like to have a meeting? Yeah, tell them to come talk to me if they want my vote for your project. And so you're meeting people for votes that are projects that are not even in your district all the time. But they need your vote when it gets to the council for it to pass. I had just finished a meeting with the Police Officers Association. And if you look at the record, the Police Officers Association still endorsed me. I walked out of a meeting at the Western Hotel on Commerce Street. Walked back, it was a Wednesday, and walked back to City Council. And they knew who I was, of course. And they waited for me to get back to City Council on the 2nd floor, back to my office downtown. And then 2 agents walked into my office.
And what did they tell you?
You're John Sanders, and they showed me their badges, and we're here, and they told me you're under arrest.
And that's when you knew something was up.
Oh, yeah.
You had no idea prior.
I had no idea what this, and then of course, in sitting, waiting to be arraigned, I figured out it had to be something dealing with. And when they called me and they said blind burger vein, whatever the deal was, I knew exactly what it was. Yeah, says that it was the cash exchange. Yeah. I was maybe there 3 hours. And let me add this to that, because being in the ministry, growing up in a Christian environment, and all of that, I acquainted myself to being in the position of one of the disciples. I'm sitting there in the holy cell, and I'm singing hymns. I'm going back to the roots of my faith, and I'm realizing that having been a preacher some 30-some years, that some sermons you preach, this is a sermon you're going to have to live. And for whatever reason, as I've preached many times, when Jesus said they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. And I have lived whatever, so this coming to me right now, this is a test for you. If that was to be in that sense, yeah, that kind of stopped that progress in that way. But the things for me not to have resigned, then I could still be downtown, and I had enough support from my colleagues who believed in me to whatever to still vote with me on projects to get the district done, and I finished my term. No, I knew, like I said, when you know history, the history of men of color, and I certainly don't subscribe that my situation or me personally are equal to the sacrifices and the statue of the kings and the exes and whatever. But you look at our Adam Clayton Powell in Congress or whatever, leaders of our persuasion who've had to do time, or who, because of their situation and their commitment to their communities, the powers that be determined that he's sincere just about, and he's not for sale and he's not doing, and we know his agenda, we know his belief, he may get too big for his britches. That goes on all the time. So this is an attempt to either, if not assassinate you, discredit you, or, yeah. This is the unique thing of this whole experience. And in thinking about or relating it, and I've never even been able to do that, thank you for the opportunity to even do this. Great support of mine, friend of mine, came to the office after I was released. I went back to my district office. And of course, supporters start coming in to see me and whatever. And why is this happening to you? Why you and whatever? And she reminds me of my response years later, and couldn't believe how awesome it was when I said, "Why not me?" When you've been walked this Christian journey, and you've been taught, why not you? It's gonna happen to me. So, and so this is a sermon that I can't preach. This is a sermon I'm gonna have to live. So I knew what kind of journey that was, and I was determined to live in my faith. The same Lord I trusted, who brought me to this point, who had blessed me to be in this position and given me the tools, the talents to be and do who I was, would not leave me. And this was going to be the proof of it. When I arrived at El Reno, which was known as Camp Fluffy, it's a 218 low security facility. There are no bars, not like TV. There were no bars, there was no clanging, like a dormitory style open facility. The only time I went through whatever was checking in and checking out. You check in, they send you across the street. You walk back out, you walk across the street, you self-surrender. So I flew in, self-surrendered, had to be there at 2 o'clock a certain time. I show up at the facility where I'm going to be, and as soon as I get there at lunchtime, I understand that my cousin Frank Sanders, who I never met, don't know if this is really my cousin, but Frank had statue. He said, "This is my cousin." They knew I was coming. Your cousin Frank, you Frank's cousin. So of course for me, yeah, I guess I'm in Oklahoma. I don't know where I am, but I'm Frank's cousin. The first night, of course, your son age signed. This is a nonviolent, this is white collar facility. Total of 218 people. This is not 1,000 people, 500 people, 218 people. And that first night, I was assigned to 4 people to a room. Huge room. You have a locker space, your own bed. Some younger guys. So Frank arranged that day to have me move where he was. So I finally met my cousin Frank. And yeah, Frank has stature. I realized there that the Lord had a greater need for me. He said, I have need of you. Don't worry about your public persona. I'll take care of that. Don't worry about men, reputation, whatever. I got you. I'll restore you. I'll keep everything that you had or whatever. And of course, the most precious thing to me at that time was my being separated from the city from my mother, who was in her 90s. And the fact that I asked the Lord to let my mother be there, because this is the first time she didn't have me around in that situation. She'd been a widow for years, lived alone, that sort of thing. And I had great friends who looked after my interest in that. But that was my major concern. But the other part was when I said, the Lord said, I have need of you, was the men and young men I encountered, and the ones when I started going to the Friday night Protestant service. And over the course of a month and a half of me just sitting among them, and they just asked me, to lead a lesson or do whatever, and they discovered what my gifts or my talents were. And when that happened, every 5th Sunday, which you were allowed in the chaplaincy on the Sunday worship service, which was the Protestant service, which was at 12 o'clock on Sundays, that if they had a request for someone to do a sermon on the 5th Sunday, you were allowed. After I had preached that first 5th Sunday, I preached every 5th Sunday until I left. They assigned me the leader of the Friday night service. So I had the opportunity to teach young men who had converted, and some older ones, some cats who had been major drug dealers throughout Oklahoma, whatever, who had converted. They were now saved. And a prison salvation can be real hard, because they when they change, they come hard, condemning people, whatever. And I had to tell them it's still about love.
So you didn't challenge your faith as in God. Why me? It wasn't.
I had too much in the tank to know that's not what I needed to do. What I need to do is trust the Lord for whatever reason I'm in this situation. And it was a great growth thing. For whatever reason I'm in this situation, and I preach your truth, you will prove yourself to me. I'm gonna be like the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I know he can save me. Even if he doesn't, I know he can. Other cities, Jacksonville, I can't remember them all. And even after I came home, you still saw this progression of across the country. You still look at it.
So the president, FBI director is saying we got a nationwide problem. We'll fix it.
This is ongoing. They're going to always do it as long as you have elected officials. Look in Congress. The congressman that got convicted here, 2 or 3 of them recently for lavish spending, and their wives. And the wife who admitted, we went on vacations, we went to Europe and whatever, who had to resign from Congress. And now their problem is some of them will just get slaps on the wrist, the embarrassment, I gotta go. But some of them are gonna get sentenced. They're gonna get sentenced. Yeah, I think I'm sure they are. And even the wives. Well, look at the ones with the college tuitions, paying for their children to be.
Statement that Colin Powell made about war, and he said, "I never want to fight a fair war." How do you feel about a statement like that.
He wants to get in and get out, get it over with. No, you don't want to be fair. You want the advantage.
And that's what the college scandal is all about.
Yeah.
Is I have an advantage.
Yeah.
I want to use my advantage.
That's right, but it's against the rules. It's against the rules. Because if that's the case, just like Bloomberg is trying to do this election, if you just have the money, just buy it. But the rules say, like the candidates are saying, he hasn't gone through the vetting. He hasn't stood up here on this stage. He hasn't handled questions. He hasn't debated us on his issues and whatever. So just buying an election and watching his numbers go up based on commercials, see, that's the whole thing of what power, money, and marketing can do. You know that.
So again, back to his advantage, he's saying, I don't have to fight fair.
Right.
If I do this.
Right.
And that's what money will allow.
That's what money will allow you to do, because money's a great influencer.
So how do we turn around and say, hey, work real hard, make this money? Not so much you control your destiny, but imagine making the money and controlling your own destiny that I don't have to debate you.
Right.
I don't need to.
I don't need to. And I can, at one time, be a Republican. Now I want to be a Democrat because I'm being an opportunist. I'm playing sides. If he was so committed, why don't he run as a Republican against Donald Trump? He's got the money. He could run in the Republicans' primary, challenge him there. You are a Republican mayor of New York. But no, the opportunity's on the Democratic side. But of course, his bigoted remarks now catching up with him. What he said in 2018 and all this throw him up against the wall conversation.
Segregation, no.
Oh, wait, Wallace?
Yes, Wallace.
But Wallace did change.
He did. You believe he honestly changed?
He did. Look, you got to look at what he went for after he had the conversion of with black people and people of color in his state. Now, of course, he was in a wheelchair then. He'd been shot. He was paralyzed. Yeah, he was coming down to the end of his road. A lot of people find redemption when they can see light at the end of the tunnel. Bloomberg's problem is he didn't say I'm sorry till he's ready to run. He's had plenty of time to examine his stop and frisk. But what he used to do, he doubled down on it. He never apologized till he decided he was going to run. So it doesn't come across as being authentic. When you're authentic, or people pick up on when you're real. People know when you're real. I know Trump has not done more. Trump is riding the coattails and the wave that Obama started. Obama's last 3 years, he had more employment numbers in employment than Trump has had in his first 3 years. So this whole, we know what Trump is. He'll take credit for your stuff, my stuff, and whatever, and make it his own. But everybody who's been around knows George Bush is the one who put us in that hole, and it was Barack Obama saved the auto industry, saved we know.
So Trump is taking credit for Obama.
And that's why he likes the uneducated, because they don't know the difference. I am amazed at the civic ignorance of many of the general population. And Trump knows that, and that's what he plays on. Just believe me. Don't believe the news. You don't read. Just listen to me and watch Fox News. And we're almost at a point without our judiciary system saving the country, at a point where we were almost at a authoritative, totalitarian government, because the Republicans have just laid down and given him license, and there's no check and balance so far, other than the judiciary.
Any advice for current council people, and what do you have to say to your community if this is the last words you are to say to them?
Well, the demographics of the community are changing. If you're going to talk about District 2 and then District 120, state representative district, our demographics are moving further east when it comes to African American populations. We are now moving into Kirby and Converse and Selma, and so you're going to have a challenge. We still have the votes to be elected, but you're going to need, moving forward, coalitions to sustain keeping this a quote-unquote black seat, if you will, because other groups are challenging, and they don't care about having this blend of color. They want, it's a matter of power, just like we're facing at ACCD, Jose and Gloria Ray, you know. And he's doing a very good job of marketing, getting around, having town hall meetings, putting out his plan. I've met him, and he wants to serve the whole district, which you have to be about serving the whole. And that was my revenue. I was known. Even though I had a strong community activist background, I served East Terrell Hills, as well as I served the Fort Sam area and my own in the inner city of District 2, as well as, you know, Bellcrest, Lakeside, Skyline, yeah, those areas. But yeah, that was my commitment, to finish as much as I could get done for the district and stay focused, even with this. We finish that, and the Lord will take care of that. And so it was bittersweet for me to come home, believe it or not. Booker, when it was time for me to come home, they had the final service that Sunday, and testimonies of brothers they're gonna miss me. How I taught them how to have a preaching service versus a teaching service. And I would have the fourth night of the week, if anyone thought they had a message, teaching how to deliver that. So it was all of that. So it was really bittersweet for me. I was ready to come home. But I really, in one case, in the spiritual side, so now when I look in the Word about Peter being in captivity, when I read about John, when I read about Paul being in jail, in prison, and writing this, but I had that was a dungeon.
No homecoming?
No. Well, we had television, I had a track, I played tennis, I won the tennis tournament, we had backgammon tournaments, softball tournaments, flag football tournaments. You could stay up all night if you wanted to. You had freedom to do that. You had 4 TV rooms, those kind of things. So it wasn't the kind of, you know, situation to claim the hardship. Didn't have that.
Any ideas on hitting the ground running when coming back, or some type of celebration party? Or?
No. Well, I never was a partier. I've never been a partier. Even my younger days, I would go out with my friends every once in a while, but I never been in there. If I want to have a party, I have my own parties. It was better.
But you know, not that you went to war, but there was an expectation when they came back from war that there was a sense of, you know, glad you're home.
Oh yeah, I was tremendously glad I was home, and glad to be back. Went back to work for Fighting Back. That I served, the board I served on. I was very grateful for that. Got my feet back in the community. We were going to DC, got the $250,000 for the faith-based initiative that we had. I was the faith-based coordinator for Fighting Back. Did that when they changed the lines and Lamar Smith became the congressman for the East Side. Had never been on the East Side, had never been to the Barber Jordan. Invited him after a meeting that the late Joe Scott called out at Wheatley Heights Church. Attended that with Willie Mitchell. He asked, he's got to bring John, John will know how to ask these questions. And so I went out there and I invited him to Fight Back, and I told him that $250,000 faith-based initiative money is being held up in D.C., and there's nobody closer to George Bush than you. You can walk in that office and get that money released. And he did. After he came to the Barber Jordan, gave him a tour, history lesson. We went to D.C. that February, met with his chief of staff in the congressional lunchroom, came back home that March, went through the whatever situation. They got our tax number at Fighting Back. That money came, and the statewide initiative was on. And then it also included the house of the Potter's House. T.D. Jakes' nonprofit got some of that same money that same year. Yeah. My name is John Sanders, and I still remain your humble servant.
That's the last thing you want to say?
Today, yeah, I can't think of nothing else. Well, then after that, what would I think about? Remember that one thing we are not on record is Ivy's election. Because I went and got Ivy, and this is after I had come back. I had gone to Byron, had invited me again to the Juneteenth golf tournament. And I'd been a guest at the golf tournament. I played And of course, and my team, and he came over and he began to, of course, be in Byron, saying that he expected to win this time. Next year when he invites me to the golf tournament, I was going to have to come call him councilman. So Brian, I don't have a problem with that, Brian, but you still have to run to win. Well, you're not running. You don't have anybody who can beat me. You know, he thought I was just, you know, you don't have anybody who can beat me. You're not running, and it's my time, and there's nobody else. Well, Byron, you can still be beat now. You have to run. So then my small little Capricorn ego, when I left that golf course, jumped up. And I got on the phone and I called my good friend Frank Dunn. And I asked Frank, where's that young lady? Is she still who used to work for the city that I knew? Because I knew Ivy as an employee. You think she's in John? I don't know, but I found out because I knew Frank knew her husband, and he knew. When Frank called me back, she wants to meet and consider it. Tell her we want to meet with her. We met with her, and we can put the campaign around you. I can get the funds, if you're willing to run. Nobody knew her in community. She had no community track record and never been involved in politics in that sense. She'd worked for that housing trust, whatever, Merced Homes or whatever. She had moved from the city and was working for Merced Homes. And I told her, we can do it. She agreed. We put the campaign around her. Byron went to a runoff, of course. Byron had a 600 vote lead. He called her and asked her to get out of the race, that there was no way she could win. She called me on the phone. I was out at the Golf Club of Texas playing with my friends that we played on Monday. There was a little trophy we used to play for. I was out there with Reverend Herman Price, Reverend Jeff Garner, and Leaford Petty. And she called me crying and saying that Byron had called and asked her to drop out of the race. I started laughing. I said, I'll call him. So I called him on the phone. I'm on the 18th green, getting ready to putt. We're getting ready to go home. And I said, Miller, tell me you didn't just do what you did. He said, yeah, what? What? You know, Byron. You didn't just call I would tell her to drop out. Yeah. I got 600 votes. There's no way you win. She could just save all that time and just drop out now because I'm going to win. Byron, you forget who you're talking to. It's a brand new race. It's a runoff. Mr. Martinez is not going. His endorsement not going to help you. There's no Hispanic name on the ballot. They're not going to turn out like that in this vote. And I got 45 days. You're going to come back to me because you know your mouth and whatever you're going to come back to me. You don't have those 600 votes in your pocket. You got to run. And of course, Byron came back to us, and Ivy was successful that night and victorious, and I was done. I remember my friend, the late Vaishon Bird, called me that night, and he was very late, and then John Sanders. He said, I got to put you in class with the late Velmo Bellinger. You a power, bro. You come home, you take a novice, put a camp and get her to beat a guy who grew up in the community, has run as 6 times. That Byron has run against, whether I was a campaign manager or I was running or I was a chief in an election, that he'd run against me, that he'd lost. And after that, you know, I talked to Byron. We saw each other at a funeral service at Second Baptist, and you know, Byron, his ego never changes. You know, if you stuck with me, we could have done something. I could have been and I let him finish, and I said, and if you'd listened to me, people would be calling you ex-councilman right now. And he, touche, you're right. And we get along with that like that. So, you know, but he hasn't invited me back to another Juneteenth golf. I haven't been to a Juneteenth golf tournament since then, but I'm not mad at it. But I told him, if you just kept your mouth closed and went on and ran your race and let me play golf and all that, it's my seat and I'm going to win it, and you don't have nobody. I just wanted to prove that. So I'm 16-1, and I don't know anybody else in this district that can say that. And the only one was my loss, that re-election when I ran under indictment. Yeah, and he had to take me to a runoff even then.
So what's next for John Sanders?
Oh man, it's going on now. I mean, I'm still doing reviews. I'm still a peer reviewer for SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration in D.C. A group friends of mine who got a contract as a consultant coalition, we're doing stuff in Philadelphia and whatever with nonprofits. So I'm like I said, look, if the Lord restored everything in tenfold, whatever, financially, one of the great nemesis, a woman, and I have to state her name because we love the Rankins, Carol Rankin, who lived in Government Hill. When they were trying to do the historic district and Mario was dealing with them, they had an immense hatred for him. And she told me she was not going to vote for me because I was his friend, and she was going to vote for Joel Williams because I was going to do the same thing he did. Once I got elected and I went through the process of letting Government Hill decide what they wanted to do, whether they were going to be a historical district, she started calling me Johnny. She came with the affection. Johnny, I really am amazed. I had dinner at that woman's house during Christmas holiday. When I left to go home, she told me, Johnny, we'll keep your car. I had two cars, my other car and the Cadillac that I had. They kept my classic car in a garage they had at their home. And we're the best whatever now. Carol has since sold that house to Rankins, and they moved to Welcome, Texas. They have a ranch in Welcome, Texas. About communication, how politics can change. But she got to see me as me. I told her, you can't just, no, you're with him, you're going to do the same thing he's going to do, I'm voting for Joel Williams. And then she related to me her experience of going to federal prison when she was a child protective agent, and she did a case against, and I'm sure you're going to edit this, the late Milton Guest. Milton Guest, who owned the tile company, Guest Tiles, went to court for a divorce and wanted custody of his daughter. Well, he had been investigated for less than his 12-year-old child. She was the agent who investigated. When the DA's office wanted to hire her away from CPA, she related this to me over Christmas dinner. After dinner, and she looked at her husband and said, can I tell him now? Over dessert, I was flabbergasted. Because I'd known her these years and where she was with me and everything. And then, Johnny, I've been where you're going. Told me what was going to happen, related, you're going to be fine. We'll keep your car, you'll be home. We know you just got caught up. She told me how she got caught up because the wife called her after the trial and said he had gotten custody. She was on vacation down at the casino in Louisiana. She said over the phone, she was so upset, that master, he did that, he got that, I wish I knew I'd kill him. The FBI was on the phone. She never came back home. They arrested her and took her to Louisville, Kentucky.
Over the phone?
My mouth dropped. She showed me I couldn't believe Carol Rankin had done time. She told me, and this is going to be, you'll be fine. They wanted you out. You were getting too much this, that, and the other, and the powers to be determined, and da-da-da-da. And like I said, but I still equate that little whatever that wasn't no quid pro quo, wasn't no this for that, a tit for that. And I said, they have me on tape. What my objection was to the contract. They came back, gave the corrections they had done to the contract, and I said, well, I can vote for the contract. Did it all in public. No, whatever. But that's something the Lord intended for me to go through, for whatever he was preparing me to do. And now I still have people that I talk to from that experience that I know, some of the people that I met, and I understood when I read my word about being in the bowels and having to go in the valley because that's where it is, and getting mud and you got to go away. That's where he needed me. That's why I went, and because I was faithful to that and understood that, didn't worry about reputation, what people were going to say. I came home and the Lord, I'm telling you, I'm still living in it right now. Yeah. That's why I tell you, book, I'm going to be gone, da-da-da-da. Yeah, I've been able to do that. So, and like I said, that was going to be my last go around in politics. I was done. I wasn't seeking to run for county commissioner. I didn't want to do anything else. I had bought 16 acres out in Atkins, Texas. I was done. I had done 40 years of activism. I was done. Yeah, as I said in my other recordings, it had affected my life, my marriage time at home, because I was committed. I was serving all these boards, spending all this time, yeah, for my community. But and I just, it's time for me. So I have no problem helping, mentoring whoever. I have no ambition to whatever, because I didn't have it then. I didn't want to. I wasn't seeking to be in council in the first place. I loved being the man behind the man. I was fine with that, but I stepped up because my community said they needed me to do that, and I don't regret it, because I'm still living a very blessed life.
That's a wrap, man. Appreciate your time.
No problem.
One for the record books.